Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in this video today I'm going to be talking about the theory that XRP is going to be backed by gold, and this theory once again seems to be resurfacing with people, YouTubers coming out with content claiming that XRP is going to be backed by gold. The recent one was from CryptoLews, and Black Swan Capitalist have also put out a recent video saying that XRP is going to be backed by gold as well. So gold-backed XRP confirmed. So I'm going to be addressing his video and how he's come to his conclusion. But before I do that, let's just quickly look at the comments, and you'll see people here, they automatically buy into this idea like, you are a legend, another great video, brother, and long-awaited video, great video. And it's actually quite sad because no one actually looks at the documentation that he goes through. All they do is just take his word for value. So you can see the documentation. If you go down to the bottom, here are the documentations that he shared, which is where he's getting his information from. And the irony is, I'm going to use the same documentation that he is using and give you my perspective of what the documentation is saying. And let's see if it's confirming that XRP is going to be backed by gold or not. So this document here, I believe it's this one, either BIS.org, BCBS pub D545.pdf. It will take you to this document here called Prudential Treatment of Crypto Asset Exposures. So Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, Prudential Treatment of Crypto Asset Exposures. And what it's basically saying, the word prudential means careful or treatment, or in order to avoid risk. So the bank wants to be exposed to cryptocurrency assets, and in order to be able to be exposed to cryptocurrency assets, they need to be prudential about it. They need to be careful about it, and they want to avoid risks, so they need to be cautious. And this document is just talking about the prudential treatment of banks as a result of being exposed to crypto assets. So let's go through this document, and as I go through this document, we will see whether XRP is being touted as something that would be backed by gold based upon this particular document. So here, let's start. Prudential treatment of crypto asset exposures. So I'm going to skim through it. Structures of the standard. So the structure of the standard is unchanged from the proposal set out in the second consultation. Under the standard, banks are required to classify crypto assets on an ongoing basis into two groups. So there are two groups that banks have classified crypto assets: Group 1 crypto asset and Group 2 crypto assets. Now in the video, what CryptoLews has done, he's basically said that XRP is going to be in the Group 1 crypto asset category. And let's read what Group 1 crypto asset category is about, and I'll tell you why he thinks we're going to be in this category. So those that meet in full a set of classification conditions, and we're going to go through what these classification conditions are. Group 1 crypto assets include tokenized traditional assets, Group 1A, so it's a subcategory, Group 1A, and that is tokenized traditional assets. Now, tokenized traditional assets could be, let's say, for example, a traditional asset is gold, a traditional asset is silver, and having that tokenized in a crypto asset form is a type of Group 1 crypto asset. But so long as this tokenized crypto asset meets the classification conditions, and we're going to go through the classification conditions. And then we have crypto assets with effective stabilization mechanisms, Group 1B. So crypto assets with effective stabilization mechanisms are basically, let's just look at a stable coin, for example, that's supposed to be pegged to the dollar. That's a crypto asset with a stabilization mechanism. Like USDC could be a crypto asset with a stabilization mechanism. And again, so long as it meets the classification conditions, which I'm going to go through. So these types of crypto assets, okay, are categorized as Group 1 crypto assets. Now, Group 1 crypto assets are subject to capital requirements based on the risk weight of underlying exposures as set out in the existing Basel framework. So what CryptoLews is basically saying, if you watch his video, I'm not going to play it, but you can feel free to watch it. You can check out the intro, the chapters, and he goes through it here when revealing the documents. He talks about it, which other crypto assets, and so on. If you listen to his video, he's going to tell you that XRP falls under Group 1 crypto assets. Why? Because he speculates and just says, because XRP is going to have a stabilization mechanism. So in other words, XRP is going to be a stable coin, and also XRP is going to be backed by gold. Where did you get that notion that XRP is going to be backed by gold? And where do you get the notion that XRP is going to be a stable coin? So he says it's going to be backed by gold, so which makes it a tokenized traditional asset because it's a token that represents gold, and it's also going to have a stable price. So XRP is going to fall under Group 1 crypto assets. That's what CryptoLews is stating. Now, if I continue, now we have Group 2 crypto assets, those that fail to meet any of the classification conditions. So we have classification conditions, and these crypto assets that fail to meet this criteria, then they fall under Group 2 crypto assets. And what could these assets be? They could basically be, as a result, they pose additional and higher risks compared with Group 1 crypto assets. So they're more riskier for banks and consequently are subject to a newly prescribed conservative capital treatment. In addition to any tokenized traditional assets and stable coins that fail the classification conditions. So if there is a tokenized traditional crypto asset, like tokenized gold, and there's a stable coin, and these two classes don't meet the classification conditions, then they would fall under Group 2 crypto assets. Also, Group 2 crypto assets includes unbacked crypto assets. An example of an unbacked crypto asset could be the whole of the cryptocurrency space. Right now, XRP is an unbacked crypto asset. Bitcoin is an unbacked crypto asset. Ethereum, Litecoin, they are all unbacked crypto assets. So they fall under Group 2 crypto assets. So from this definition here, I would argue that XRP is an unbacked crypto asset, and based upon this document, it falls under Group 2 crypto assets. Whereas CryptoLews is saying that it's backed by gold, or it's going to be backed by gold. He doesn't really, I don't know how he came to that conclusion. And he's also saying that it's going to have stabilization mechanisms, so it's a Group 1 crypto asset. So here you have it. So you have these two Group 1 crypto assets and you have Group 2 crypto assets. Now Group 2 is more the riskier type for banks, and Group 1 are crypto assets that tend to be backed by another traditional asset, or they have a stabilization mechanism that is also gives the crypto asset a stable price, and they meet the classification conditions. That's very important. Group 2 crypto assets do not meet the classification conditions. So here we have this diagram illustrating it in more detail, and it tells you what Group 1 crypto assets are. They are tokenized traditional assets or stable coins that meet the classification condition, and Group 2 don't meet the classification condition, and they can also be tokenized traditional assets, stable coins, and unbacked crypto assets. Now, based upon this, XRP falls under unbacked crypto assets. I will say it's in the Group 2 category, not the Group 1 category. Here it says basic risk test, redemption test, and the supervision regulation requirement. So the Group 1 classification conditions set out in the second consultation included a requirement that crypto assets with stabilization mechanisms must pass a redemption risk test and a basis risk test. So this is what needs to happen for XRP. If it's going to be in Group 1, it needs to pass these tests: redemption risk test and basis risk test. Now, the objective of the redemption risk test is to ensure that the reserve assets are sufficient to enable the crypto asset to be redeemable at all times, including during periods of extreme stress for the amount to which the crypto asset is pegged, the peg value. So if you're going to say XRP is going to be backed by gold or pegged to gold, that means XRP needs to be redeemable at all times to gold. Someone should be able to say, okay, give me my gold for that XRP. And it needs to be redeemable during periods of stress, extreme stress, for the amount of which the crypto asset is pegged, the peg value. Okay, bear that in mind. So if XRP is backed by gold, it needs to be able to be redeemable by gold. Is XRP redeemable by gold? Nope. Is it likely to be redeemable by gold? No. And I'm going to explain why from a fundamental perspective as to why XRP is likely never going to be redeemable by gold, and it makes no sense whatsoever for them to even attempt to do that. And this goes to show that people that go out there and spout that XRP is going to be backed by gold, in my opinion, they don't understand the basics, the fundamentals. Because if you ask them, could you please explain to me how technically they're going to back XRP by gold and how it's actually going to work, bearing in mind the nature of XRP, they won't be able to do it. They skip past that part, and all they do is just give you this hopium theory that sounds nice, a bit like the buyback theory. It sounds nice, but technically, how would it work? They don't know. A bit like XRP can work offline. Oh, it sounds beautiful. We can send XRP to each other without the internet. Wow, amazing. But how does it work exactly? Fundamentally, technically, in regards to XRP, how it works with validators and communicating, how does that system work offline when fundamentally that system requires the internet to even work? But they can't explain that part. It's just about, oh, it works offline, it sounds nice because of XPOP. And this is another example. XRP will be backed by gold. But how is it going to be backed by gold when you look at the fundamentals? Oh, we skip past that part. Anyways, okay, the proposed requirement for banks. Now, these are Group 2 exposure limits. Okay, and it says here the proposed requirement for banks to keep their aggregate exposures to Group 2 crypto assets below a threshold of 1% of their Tier 1 capital has been retained in the final standard. So because of the nature of Group 2 crypto assets, where they don't meet the classification conditions, and I'm going to go through the classification conditions in this document, which is something, by the way, that CryptoLews did not go through in his video, but I'm going to do it in this video. Okay, now if the banks are holding Group 2 crypto assets, which could be unbacked crypto assets and tokenized crypto assets and stable coins that do not meet the classification conditions, then because of their high risk nature that the banks perceive them to be, they are proposing in this document, as part of the prudential treatment of crypto asset exposure for banks holding crypto, that banks only hold a threshold of 1% of their Tier 1 capital that they could be exposed to Group 2 crypto assets. Now, does that mean a cryptocurrency like XRP, which is unbacked, okay, banks can only hold 1% of that cryptocurrency? Based upon this sentence, if this is true and this is what banks are going to follow in terms of guidance, then that's what it says. Now, in my opinion, this sort of stuff could always be tweaked. So yes, 1% they claim, but in the future, could it be higher than 1%? If XRP is going to be used for what people that believe in XRP believes where it's going to go, could this be changed? Yes, I believe everything could be changed, just like this document is changing what banks could even do, because there was a time where banks would not even look or even acknowledge crypto. Now we have documentation where they're trying to put it into writing where banks could even be exposed to crypto. So these percentages could always change. It's not set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. Regulations are forever evolving. So here, let's continue. Elements subject to specific monitoring and review. Now, these are some examples of things that committee are closely monitoring and they're reviewing. And one of the things that they're monitoring and reviewing, okay, is permissionless blockchains. Now, the committee will continue to reflect on whether the risks posed by crypto assets that use permissionless blockchains can be sufficiently mitigated to allow for their inclusion in Group 1. And if so, what adjustments to the classification conditions would be needed? Now, XRP falls under a permissionless blockchain. Any token that's built on the XRPL network, for example, if you have a tokenized traditional asset that's tokenized on the XRPL network, or you have a stable coin that's built on the XRPL network, falls under permissionless blockchains. So the bank is saying that, and this just shows, it's very important, that initially when they talk about Group 1 crypto assets, they are not talking about those assets based upon permissionless blockchains. They are talking about it probably based upon private blockchains that they control. And the reason why I'm assuming this, because they even have this category here where they're saying that they're going to be considering and monitoring permissionless blockchains, and they will reflect on whether the risks, that means they see permissionless blockchains as more riskier because they don't control them, okay, whether the risks posed by crypto assets that use permissionless blockchains, and an example of a permissionless blockchain is XRPL, can be sufficiently mitigated to allow for their inclusion in Group 1. If so, if they're going to include it into Group 1 crypto assets, if so, what adjustments to the classification conditions would be needed? So they're willing to even make adjustments to the classification conditions as well. And this is interesting that they say this, because this also means that potentially a token like XRP could be added into the Group 1 class of crypto assets, because adjustments may be made to the classification condition. And if adjustments are made to the classification conditions, enabling like a cryptocurrency like XRP, which is the native token for the permissionless blockchain XRPL, to be incorporated into Group 1 assets, that means banks can hold XRP at a higher amount compared to Group 2 unbacked crypto assets. But then again, it says adjustments can be made to the classification condition, and it would be needed. And this is something that they're monitoring, reviewing, and so on. So it shows you, as I was saying, nothing is set in stone, things can change. However, if XRP is added to Group 1, it's not because of the criteria that it's a tokenized traditional asset backed by gold, neither is it because of the criteria that it's a crypto asset with a stable price mechanism, because neither of those things are true. It would solely be added into Group 1 category, okay, because they've made adjustments to the category, to the classification conditions, which enables them to add XRP into that category, which is a part of the permissionless blockchain XRPL. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you're still following me here, because sometimes this stuff can be a bit daunting to read and confusing to understand. So here we are at the classification conditions, and as I said, CryptoLews did not explain this in his video, but it's very, very important to actually go through these classification conditions if you're going to give people the full picture and understanding. So here we have, in certain areas of this chapter, most notably for the purpose of credit, market and liquidity risk, the prudential treatment of a bank's crypto asset exposures varies according to the prudential classification of the crypto assets. To determine the prudential classification, crypto assets must be screened on an ongoing basis and classified into two broad groups. Now it talks about the two broad groups. Group 1 crypto assets are those crypto assets that meet the classification conditions, and you have Group 2 crypto assets are those crypto assets that failed to meet the classification conditions. And I've already explained to you what Group 1 crypto assets are, so let's look and see what these classification conditions are. Now, traditional assets are those assets that are captured within the Basel framework and are not classified, okay? Now, to be classified as a Group 1A or Group 1B crypto asset must meet an ongoing basis the classification conditions below. Now, in CryptoLews' video, he basically tells you that XRP is going to be a Group 1 crypto asset class, but he does not go through the classification conditions. So let's go through these classification conditions and let's see for ourselves whether XRP even fits the criteria to be a Group 1 asset. Classification condition 1. The crypto asset is either a tokenized traditional asset. Now, XRP right now is not a tokenized traditional asset. He claims CryptoLews that it's going to be backed by gold to make it a tokenized traditional asset, but fundamentally that's impossible, and I'm going to explain why. Now, number 2, it has a stabilization mechanism that is effective at all times in linking its value to a traditional asset or a pool of traditional assets. Now, he also says, CryptoLews, in his video, that XRP is going to have a stable price. And we know XRP works based upon supply and demand. It's never going to be stable 1-to-1 to the dollar, and then people say it's going to have a high stable price. But even then, even if it reaches a high price that so happens to be stabilized, it's not because of a peg, it's going to be stabilized because of supply and demand, keeping it at that high priced, stabilized value, and it may fluctuate at a high price as well. Yeah, but the price drops may not be high if it's a high priced token. So the price drops where it moves up and down would probably be within a certain range at a high price if people believe it's going to be a high price. Like, for example, you won't see XRP at, let me just put a random speculative number out there for the high price concept at £500, and then one day you see it at £50. Like, no, if it, you may see it at £500, then £480, 500, something like that, if you know what I mean. So again, there is no stabilization mechanism, however, that keeps XRP at a stable price. It doesn't exist. It works based on supply and demand. So again, CryptoLews was saying that XRP is going to be a stable coin and it's going to be backed by gold, so it fits into classification condition 1, and this is completely false because he cannot prove any of that. So let's continue. And you're just fooling people when you start just telling them this stuff. So it has a stabilization mechanism that is effective at all times in linking its value to a traditional asset. And here it claims what makes it stabilized. Its value is linked to a traditional asset or a pool of traditional assets. So for XRP to be even a stable token, then it has to be pegged to traditional assets or a pool of traditional assets. And XRP is a free floating currency. It's not pegged to anything. Its value comes from its utility and its utility alone. So tokenized traditional assets will only meet classification condition 1 if they satisfy all of the following requirements. So if you're saying that it's going to be backed by gold, XRP, then it needs to satisfy all of these requirements. 1, they are digital representations of traditional assets using cryptography, DLT or similar technology to record ownership. So XRP backed by gold needs to be a digital representation of gold, and it does use cryptography, and it's based upon DLT, and it needs to record ownership. That means for every XRP you own, it needs to record that you have that value in gold because it represents gold. They pose the same level of credit and market risk as the traditional non-tokenized form of the asset. So if it's backed by gold, then the risks that's associated with gold also needs to be associated with XRP. In practice, this means the following for tokenized traditional assets: bonds, loans, claims on banks, equities, and derivatives. The crypto asset must confer the same level of legal rights as ownership of these traditional forms. So if you're going to say XRP is backed by gold, then it has the same legal rights of ownership to gold and any risks associated with gold. Commodities. The crypto asset must confer the same level of legal rights as traditional accounts based records of ownership of a physical commodity. So if it's backed by gold, which is a commodity, then you must have the same legal rights as owning basically gold or any other physical commodity, which we don't have with XRP because it's backed by nothing and it's likely always going to remain that way. Cash held in custody. Now, if it's backed by cash, then it must give you the same legal rights as the cash that's held in custody. So far, we're talking about classification condition 1. Now, these are the classification conditions, but this is just point 1 of the classification conditions. So crypto assets that have a stabilization mechanism, the people that say XRP is going to be a stable coin, okay, will only meet classification condition 1 if they satisfy all of the following requirements. So if it falls under the stabilization mechanism that causes it to be in group 1, then it needs to meet these conditions as well. The crypto asset is designed to be redeemable for a predefined amount of a reference asset or assets, example $1 or 1 ounce of gold or cash equal to the current market value of the reference assets. So if you're saying it's going to be a stable token, and you're saying what's going to stabilize its price is basically a bag of commodities or other assets because it's a stable token, then that crypto asset needs to be redeemable for whatever it's backed by. If it's gold, it needs to be redeemable to gold. If it's USD, it needs to be redeemable to USD. Now, the value of the reference assets need to which one unit of the crypto asset is designed to be redeemable is referred to as the peg value. So it needs to be redeemable to its pegged value. So you need to be able to go to your bank and say, here's my bag of XRP, give me my gold. And that's not going to happen. The stabilization mechanism is designed to minimize fluctuations in the market value. So with this stabilization mechanism, the idea is that it minimizes fluctuations in the market value of the crypto asset relative to the peg value. So XRP would not be able to move beyond whatever it's pegged to. It should stay at that price of whatever it's pegged to. And then that totally contradicts the notion that XRP is a token based upon supply and demand and could appreciate in value, could fall in value based upon the tokenomics and based upon the concepts of supply and demand and based upon scarcity and all these factors which basically either pushes prices up or makes prices go down, okay, that's irrelevant for XRP if you're saying it's going to be stabilized as a result of being pegged to something, because now its value is as a result of its peg, not the market forces of supply and demand. And we know XRP's value comes from utility, supply, demand. It does not come from any stabilization mechanism. In order to satisfy the effective of all times condition, banks must have a monitoring framework, in place, verifying that the stabilization mechanism is functioning as intended. So if XRP is going to be a stable coin, then there needs to be monitoring framework. You need to make sure that this stabilization mechanism is always in place. It needs to be verified to always be in place, and there needs to be some oversight over it. The stabilization mechanism enables risk management similar to the risk management of traditional assets based on sufficient data or experience. For newly established crypto assets, there may be insufficient data and or practical experience to perform a detailed assessment of the stabilization mechanism. Evidence must be provided to satisfy supervisors of the effectiveness of the stabilization mechanism, including the composition, valuation, and frequency of valuation of the reserve asset and the quality of available data. You see how this is becoming very centralized now. If XRP is going to be backed by gold, then someone needs to be responsible for ensuring the backing. And whoever is responsible for ensuring the backing would need to be able to prove the backing. They would need to be able to basically satisfy any supervision and oversight that basically monitors and watches the backing to prove XRP is always backed by a reserve asset. There exists sufficient information that banks use to verify the ownership rights of the reserve assets upon which the stable value of the crypto asset is dependent. In the case of the underlying physical assets, banks must verify that these assets are stored and managed appropriately. So again, if XRP is being backed by gold, then banks need to make sure that whoever owns XRP has ownership rights to the gold. And banks need to make sure as well that the physical assets are verified and accounted for, and that these assets are stored and managed appropriately. Who is taking that responsibility to do that with XRP, a decentralized cryptocurrency? How are you going to centralize a decentralized asset? Explain that one to me. They never explained that. This monitoring framework must function regardless of the crypto asset issuer. Banks may use the assessment of independent third parties for the purpose of verification of ownership rights only if they are satisfied that the assessments are reliable. So far, if you look at these conditions, it seems extremely unlikely that a decentralized asset would be centralized in this manner. So classification condition 2. To meet classification condition 2, the following requirements must be met. At all times, the crypto asset arrangement must ensure full transferability and settlement finality. In addition, crypto assets with stabilization mechanisms must provide a robust legal claim against the issuer and or underlying reserve assets and must ensure full redeemability. So it's sort of repeating itself, basically saying that you need to be able to redeem the asset to the peg asset, and you need to have full transferability and settlement, which you do have with XRP. However, we don't have the stabilization mechanism and we're not able to redeem XRP for anything. Neither is this document really indicating that XRP is going to fall in this criteria, which CryptoLews is basically saying it is. Now, in order for crypto asset arrangements to be considered as having full redeemability, it must allow for the redemption to be completed within 5 calendar days of the redemption request at all times. Interesting. So if you hold XRP and XRP is backed by gold and you want to trade it in for your physical gold, then they have to give you your physical gold, the banks, within 5 calendar days of the redemption request at all times. So this may be an awesome way to get loads of gold in the future, right? XRP is at 33 pence right now. 1 gold ounce is at 1,500, 1,600 pounds. Buy a bag of XRP, and then when they peg it to gold, you just swap that bag of XRP for all that gold, physical gold. I see an amazing opportunity here, especially if you want to get more gold. If you want to get more gold and you believe it's going to be backed by gold because YouTubers are telling you, then you can buy it, and legally banks would have to give you your gold within 5 calendar days once XRP is backed by gold. It's all nonsense. At all times, I'm not saying this is nonsense. I'm saying the idea of XRP being backed by gold is complete nonsense. Now let's see what classification condition 3 is. To meet classification condition 3, the following requirements must be met. Let's see what they mean. The functions of the crypto asset, such as issuance, validation, redemption, and transfer of the crypto asset and the network on which it runs, do not pose any material risks that could impair the transferability, settlement finality, or where applicable, redeemability of the crypto asset. Interesting. Because remember, the XRPL is decentralized. So why would a bank, which can clearly see from this document, if they are going to back a crypto asset by gold, it requires so much centralization. Look how much criteria and conditions they have to meet. How could they feel safe backing XRP by gold when they have no control of the network? Mic drop, finish, video done, I'm out. I should end the video right there because that just sums it up. It's never going to happen. The functions of the crypto asset, such as issuance, do they have control of the issuance of XRP? Well, one could say the price is at 100 billion, but what if they need to issue more? They have no control over the issuance of XRP. Validation, do they have control over the validation of XRP? Redemption, do they have control over the redemption of XRP? And transfer of the crypto assets? And the network, they even have control over the network on which it runs. Nope, they have no control over this decentralized beast. So why are they going to try and implement extreme centralization over something that they have no control over? Wouldn't it be easier to just, if they want to have a crypto asset backed by gold, to just create their own DLT system that they control, whereby they can create a token, back it by gold, and they can control the issuance, the validation, the redemption, the transfer of the crypto asset, the network which it runs, and they could make sure that the network poses no material risks that could impair the transferability, settlement finality, or where applicable, redeemability of the crypto asset. And they can make sure of this because they control it, it's centralized, it's under their governance. Wouldn't that be so much easier when it comes to the centralization that's required in order for this to even be possible with all the criteria and conditions that they have to meet? Wouldn't that be easier than trying to implement such a thing on a decentralized network? Do you see why I say it's never going to happen? So this video here is complete nonsense. I'm sorry, but this guy has been doing this for so long now, and it's coming to a stage where I'm not even the only one that's calling him out. Some people are even saying that it's becoming malicious with what he's doing because he's deceiving these poor folk in these comments that look up to him. That this is unbelievable clarity about what is really happening next. Great video. Thank you. Well done. This is outstanding. You see? And the same documents whereby he is spewing this misconception, this nonsense to you guys, is the same documents I'm going through with you right now to show you why it's never going to happen, man. This is why I always tell people to always do your own research, because you cannot trust YouTubers. You can't even trust me. Just do your own research. Anyways, where am I? I lost where I was now. To this end, entities performing activities associated with these functions must follow robust risk governance and risk control policies and practices of address, including but not limited to credit, market and liquidity risks, operational risks. So as you can see, there's so much oversight, and they do not have this much oversight over the XRPL ledger because of its decentralized nature. So if XRP was to ever fall into the group 1 category, remember on top there was a section where I spoke about permissionless blockchains, and they were saying, oh, we're going to look at permissionless blockchains, monitor it, and we're going to see whether we can amend the conditions in order to maybe incorporate assets that are based upon permissionless blockchains into the group 1 category based upon amending the classification conditions. If XRP ever goes into group 1, it's not because of its tokenized traditional asset, it's backed by gold, it's not because it's a stable coin, it's because they have made an exception and they made an amendment that enables XRP to move into group 1. Now in this document, they did not give you clear-cut clarity that XRP is going to be group 1 because it's a permissionless blockchain, which they consider more risky because they don't control. However, they did leave it open, saying that we're monitoring it, we're checking it, and that's the only way XRP can enter into group 1 is through an exception. not based upon whatever they're saying here, it being backed by gold and it being a stable high price, because it does not meet any of these classification conditions. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Okay, so let's see what classification condition 4 is saying. Classification condition 4: entities that execute redemptions, transfers, storage, or settlement finality of the crypto asset or manage or invest reserve assets must be regulated. So anyone that is backing XRP by gold, if XRP is going to be backed by gold, then it needs to be regulated and supervised or subject to appropriate risk management standards, and it needs to have in place and disclose a comprehensive governance framework. And here's the thing, no one is going to do that for a blockchain network they don't control, for a decentralized system. You're not going to see anyone come out and say, I'm going to try and back Bitcoin by gold, and I have no control over the network, over the issuance of the token, over the governance of the token, but I'm going to try and back it by gold. Ridiculous. And the same applies to XRP. It's not going to happen. Because why would you, how could you even do that? You don't even fulfill the classification condition of number 3, where you have control over the network. And especially when you're going to be regulated and you're going to have to prove that you can even meet the standards and you can redeem everything by the asset. You can redeem the crypto asset for what it's pegged to. Why would you do that? Even try to do that with an asset that you have no control over. So entities subject to condition 4 include operators of the transfer and settlement system for the crypto asset, wallet providers. So all these entities, okay, if it's XRP, would include operators of the transfer and settlement system for the crypto asset, wallet providers, and for crypto assets with stabilization mechanisms, administrators of the stabilization mechanism, and custodians of the reserve asset. None of this is happening for XRP. Node validators may be subject to appropriate risk management standards as an alternative to being regulated and supervised. So that's it for the conditions. So as you can see, in order to be into group 1, you need to meet 4 classification conditions. I went through the conditions in this document, and if you can meet and satisfy those 4 very comprehensive classification conditions, which is full of oversight, which is full of regulations, which is full of extreme centralization, because you're going to have to be centralized to meet these conditions, okay? And then you have a crypto asset that is tokenized or stable, and they can be redeemed, and the stable mechanism is pegged to some traditional asset. If those tokens meet the classification conditions, then they fall under group 1, and banks could hold group 1 tokens. Their exposure to group 1 tokens can be higher than group 2. Now CryptoLews is saying that he's telling you that XRP falls under group 1. I'm telling you XRP does not fall under group 1 because it does not meet the classification conditions at all, and none of them would even attempt to apply those classification conditions on a network they don't control. XRP is not backed by gold. XRP is not a stable coin. It does not meet group 1 at all. This document proves it. XRP falls under group 2, unbacked crypto assets. Also, XRP does not fall under a tokenized traditional asset or a stable coin that does not meet classification conditions, because it's neither of those two. It's an unbacked crypto asset that does not meet classification conditions. It clearly tells you what XRP is here. And group 2, banks have an exposure limit to how much of group 2 they can hold. And it says 1% in this document. Whereas group 1, I'm not sure what the percentage is, but it's higher because they're considered safer than group 2. But then at the same time in this document, they say under elements that is subject to specific monitoring and review is that permissionless blockchains can potentially, and it's based upon the risks that they pose, crypto assets that are based upon permissionless blockchains can potentially, if they can show that that the risks is mitigated, that permissionless blockchains can be sufficiently mitigated to allow for their inclusion in group 1, so they can potentially be added into group 1, and if so, it can be based upon adjustments to the classification conditions would be needed. Adjustments to the classification conditions would be needed, and this is under monitoring and review. So if XRP as an unbacked crypto asset ever moves over to group 1, it's not because it meets the current classification conditions. It's likely because they've made changes and they've accepted it as a permissionless blockchain that is safe to be over in the Group 1 category, and its assets, like XRP for example, is safe to be over in the Group 1 category, and they've made classification conditions amendments and adjustments that enables it to be moved over into Group 1. But at the moment, nothing has been said in this document to indicate that. At the moment, based upon this document, XRP falls under Group 2. It does not fall under Group 1 based upon being a traditional tokenized asset backed by gold or a stable coin. And this video here is complete misinformation, and he's basically misinformed 46,000 people. And it's really bad, because how can I read this document and just see straight away that XRP is a Group 2 token, and he's reading this document and is selling you guys a dream that it's going to be backed by gold and be a stable coin by taking all this material out of context. Anyways, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so as to not miss my next video.